Hey, Shalom Israel and happy Sabbath. I'm glad to see you guys here today. I'm pretty sure you guys all want to know the status of Brother Reggie Sr. He's actually doing really well right now. He's just recovering and he'll be back soon. So we ask that you continue to lift up prayers for us. You know, we really appreciate that. And so we just pray that you just be patient and bear with us. And with that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and start with today's lesson. I'm going to be reading Exodus chapter 7, 8, and 9. Now, in the previous lesson we witnessed how Pharaoh and the Egyptians oppressed the children of Israel. But in this lesson, we're going to see the Lord begin to work on Israel's behalf, because it's all going to end up. Hold on, y'all. I had something pop up on my screen. But yeah, this is all going to lead to Israel being released out of the hands of Pharaoh and the Egyptians. And so with that, guys, let's go ahead and get into it. Exodus chapter 7, and I'm going to read this all the way through. And it says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh." So in other words, the Lord is saying, hey, I have exalted Moses. And see, that is very important, because a lot of people don't understand that Moses did not make himself the man he was. The Lord did that. He's in the position he's in because the Lord decided to use him, and to the capacity that he used him. The Lord did all of that, because if you guys can recall in Exodus 3 and 11, Moses was like, Lord, who am I? That was a sign right there that Moses was a very, very humble man. He didn't even see himself as being special. He didn't feel important enough to even take on the job that he currently has right now. He told the Lord, hey, Lord, go send who you gonna send. Send somebody more important to carry out this task, because me, I'm nothing. I'm a nobody. But see, that's what qualified Moses for the Lord to use him, because he was humble. And let's go ahead real quick and let's see why the Lord chose to use Moses, because it tells you in Numbers 12 that Moses was the meekest man on the face of the earth. But let's go real quick to Isaiah 42 and verse 8, and why the Lord decided to use Moses, and why he uses humble people, period. This is why. Isaiah 42 in verse 8. And this is what the Lord says. He says, I am the Lord. That is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. See, that's why the Lord chooses humble people, because he doesn't have to worry about the humble or the meek stealing his glory and stealing his praise, because he knows, okay, if I exalt the humble, they're going to give all the glory, the honor, the praise, the majesty to me. I don't have to worry about them vainglory and taking all of that for themselves so man could see them as this special person. No, that's why the Lord uses the humble, because he never has to worry about them taking his glory. And see, we're going to learn a lot more actually about that once we get to Numbers, the book of Numbers, specifically chapter 16. But for now, guys, let's stay in Exodus. But I'm going to continue to read. Where was I? Let me just read verse 1 over again. It says, "And the Lord said unto Moses, See, I have made thee a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron thy brother shall be thy prophet." Okay, verse 2. "Thou shalt speak all that I command thee." And that's very important, brothers. We need to listen to the Most High. And we need to always be obedient, right? He says, "And Aaron thy brother shall speak unto Pharaoh, that he send the children of Israel out of his land." Because remember, Moses is in the place of God, okay? And Aaron is in Moses's place. So Aaron is the one that is the prophet, and Moses is the God. So Aaron essentially is the one performing all of the miracles in the sight of Pharaoh, and Moses is in the back giving the orders. Okay, so always keep that in mind, because people never seem to really mention Aaron, but Aaron was the one doing the miracles. Verse 3, and it says, "And I will harden Pharaoh's heart." So he's telling Moses and Aaron, hey, You're going to do all of these signs and wonders, but I'm going to harden Pharaoh's mind that he don't listen and let the children of Israel go. But why is he going to harden? And multiply my signs and my wonders in the land of Egypt. So the Lord essentially is doing this because he wants to lay his hands upon Egypt for all of those things that they did, Pharaoh and those Egyptians, to the children of Israel. Because he never forgot how blood, sweat, and tears from the children of Israel cultivated Egypt's lands, planted those trees, built those treasured cities. And it was more than just Pithom and Ramses, but that's all the Lord wanted us to know was Pithom and Ramses. Okay, how the children of Israel, I'm pretty sure, took care of the Egyptians by force, and how they had to take care of their cattle. The Lord never forgot any of those things. And the ultimate one, how all of those Egyptians, of course the command was given by Pharaoh, but how they, were killed all of the Israelite boys, throwing them into the river and stuff. The Lord never forgot that. So he has to get his pound of flesh out of Pharaoh. He's not going to let Pharaoh get off easy. And not just Pharaoh, but all the rest of the Egyptians. He's going to get his pound of flesh from them. So let's go back to reading. Verse 4. It says, but Pharaoh shall not hearken unto you, that I may lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth my army. So it's more than just the children of Israel. These same children of Israel are also his armies. And your hint is the second coming of Christ. Why? Because when he takes the remnant out of captivity, we're going to meet the Lord in the sky. And we're going to come back now. And we're going to take down this beast called Rome. Okay. But he says that I may lay my hand upon Egypt and bring forth mine armies and my people, the children of Israel, out of the land of Egypt by great judgments. Verse 5. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord, especially Pharaoh, because if you guys don't know something about pharaohs in history, they believe that they were God incarnate. Okay, so he's going to show them. And of course, we know too that those Egyptians were steeped deep into idolatry. They worship their cattle, they worship the river, they worship all of this stuff. That's actually where we're gonna later Israel is gonna make a golden calf idol. Well, they actually got it from Egypt. That was one of the Egyptian gods. Okay, but these are the things that Egypt worship. But the Lord is pretty much saying, hey, when I'm done with Egypt, they're gonna know that there is only one true and living God, and that's him. Now we're going to keep on reading. Verse 5 says, and the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord when I stretch forth mine hand upon Egypt and bring out the children of Israel from among them. Think about it. For an entire nation of people to have a mass exodus like that's that's of the Most High. Okay. Verse 6. And Moses and Aaron did as the Lord commanded them, so did they. So everything the Lord told them to do, they performed it. 7. And Moses was 80 years old, so he was 80, and Aaron 83 years old, so Aaron was 83, when they spake unto Pharaoh. So they were pretty much good and old. Now I'm going to read verse 8, and it says, and the Lord spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, when Pharaoh shall speak unto you, saying, shew a miracle for you, meaning show me something, then thou shalt say unto Aaron, take thy rod and cast it before Pharaoh, and it shall become a serpent. Verse 10. And Moses and Aaron went in unto Pharaoh, and they did so as the Lord had commanded. And Aaron cast down his rod before Pharaoh. So never forget, Moses is the one giving the orders as God, and Aaron is the one performing these miracles before Pharaoh and the Egyptians. So he cast his rod before Pharaoh, and it says, and before his servants, and it became a serpent or a snake. Verse 11. And Pharaoh also called the wise men and the astrologers. So he called his men, now the magicians of Egypt. So also did in like manner with their enchantments, because what Pharaoh is essentially trying to do is to prove that there is no God. Because the very stuff that you're saying you're doing in the name of your God, we're able to do it too. Therefore, there can't be no true and living God. But the Lord is going to get ready to show Pharaoh that he, in fact, is the living God. Verse 12. And it says, for they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rod. So Aaron's snake swallowed up their snakes. 13. And he, meaning God, hardened Pharaoh's heart, that he hearkened not unto them, as what the Lord had said. Because the Lord already said, hey, y'all gonna be doing these signs and wonders, but I'm going to harden Pharaoh's mind that he doesn't let the children of Israel go. And that's exactly what he did. So now we're going to look at the next plague, which is the plague of blood. 14. And the Lord said unto Moses, Pharaoh's heart is hardened. He refuseth to let the people go. Get thee unto Pharaoh in the morning. Lo, he goeth out into the water, and thou shalt stand by the river's brink against he come. And that river very well could be the Nile River, because I know that was the most prized river in Egypt. And that was the river that went throughout all the land of Egypt. It says, but when he do that, stand against him when he come, and the rod which was turned to a serpent shalt thou take in thine hand. 16. And thou shalt say unto him, the Lord God of the Hebrews have sent me unto thee, saying, let my people go, that they may serve me in the wilderness. And behold, hitherto thou wouldest not hear. So because you wouldn't let my people go, thus saith the Lord, in this thou shalt know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will smite with the rod that is in mine hand upon the waters which are in the river, and they shall be turned to blood. So Moses is going to command Aaron to turn the water that's in the river to blood. 18. It says, and the fish that is in the river shall die, and the river shall stink, and the Egyptians shall loathe to drink of the water of the river. Because you can't drink that. You can't drink blood, you will die. 19. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, take thy rod, stretch out thine hand upon the waters of Egypt, and upon their streams, and upon their rivers with an S, which meaning he's hitting more than just probably that Nile. That means he's hitting these other rivers. And these, let's see what else he's going to say it. And upon their ponds. So like upon their lakes and stuff. And upon all their pools of water. Okay, meaning those pools that are man-made. Because, you know, men make their own pools. You know, they dig out the ground and stuff. They cement it and then they put water in it. You know, the Lord gonna hit that too. That they may become blood, and that there may be blood throughout all the land of Egypt, both in vessels of wood and in vessels of stone. So even their normal drinking water that they put in vessels and stuff like basins, so that at any time they could scoop the water out and drink it at will. The Lord said, hey, I'm turning that to blood too. 20. And Moses and Aaron did so, as the Lord commanded. As he lifted up the rod and smote the waters that were in the river in the sight of Pharaoh and in the sight of his servants, and all the waters that were in the river were turned to blood. 21. And the fish that was in the river died. So they died and floated up to the top, because, you know, fish weren't meant to inhale blood. They only inhale water. So they end up dying, floating to the top. And you know, their body after a while began to rot and to stink. And it says, and the river stank, and the Egyptians could not drink of the water of the river. And there was blood throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians of Egypt did so with their enchantment. So they were able to replicate that sign. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, just like the Lord said it would be. Neither did he hearken unto them, as the Lord had said. 23. And Pharaoh turned and went into his house. Neither did he set his heart to this also. So he wasn't even worried about the rivers being turned to blood or nothing. And it shows you too that he doesn't really care about his people, because I would be concerned that my people now don't have any water to drink. But, he didn't care. Them pharaohs thought they was God anyway. 24. And all the Egyptians dig round about the river for water to drink, for they could not drink of the water of the river. So now the Egyptians are scrambling, trying to find water, thirsty. And why? Because when they probably was working Israel to death, they probably didn't let Israel drink any water. Israel probably was thirsty. Can I get some water? No, get back to work. So, hey, the Lord is repaying them back for the evil that they did. 25. And 7 days were fulfilled. So they went 7 days, these Egyptians, with no water after the Lord had smitten the river. Well, it's a long time without water. But now we're going to be approaching upon the next plague. Now we're moving on to Exodus 8. Okay. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses, go unto Pharaoh, and say unto him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. And if thou refuse to let them go, which Pharaoh will, behold, I will smite all thy borders with frogs, and the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, frogs in a number that you ain't never seen before, which shall go up and come into thine house, to thy bed chamber, upon thy bed, and into the house of thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thine ovens, and into thy kneading troughs. And you need to know, guys, those frogs are sticky, slimy. Y'all know how they leave that residue behind. That stuff will destroy things that you have. Verse 4. And the frog shall come up both upon thee, and upon thy people, and upon all thy servants. And even if the men weren't terrified, the women were screaming. You probably heard all the women screaming in Egypt. If I know one thing about women, they do not like frogs. I know that for a fact. They do not like frogs. Verse 5. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch forth thine hand with thy rod over the streams, and over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. We ain't never seen that many abundance of frogs. It was so many of them, brothers and sisters. And it says they covered the land of Egypt. Think about that. That means them frogs was everywhere. I could not even imagine that. But what the Lord is doing to Egypt, essentially, is making them uncomfortable, making them agitated. You know why? Because they made Israel uncomfortable. They agitated Israel. So the Lord is returning the favor right upon their own head. I love God. This God knows how to get back at your enemies. That's why you ain't got to move your hand to do no kind of evil. Hey, just pray to the Most High and you let him deal with the situation. Because I can tell you, he could do a lot worse to your enemies than you can do it. And guess what? When the Lord take your enemies down, your hands unspotted. You ain't do nothing but pray. Okay? Verse 7. And the magicians did so with their enchantments. So the magicians, they copied and did the same and brought frogs upon the land of Egypt, which is stupid because you're afflicting yourself, but that's the pride of man. That's how far man will go. Verse 8. Then Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron. What you calling for him for, Pharaoh? And said, entreat the Lord, that he may take away the frogs from me and from my people. I will let the people go, that they may do sacrifice unto the Lord. So now Pharaoh, he can't take it no more. He called for Moses and Aaron to entreat to the Lord. But hold on. I thought this God wasn't real. Wasn't no one true and living God. But see, now we see him moving. But that's my whole thing, though. It's like, Pharaoh, if you claim to have some sort of powers, I don't know. How about you tell them same enchanters, them sorcerers and stuff like that, hey, tell them to remove the frogs. But you can't. Because only our God can do that. Okay, verse 9. And so he said that. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, glory over me, meaning you need to now show me some respect and show my God some respect when I do what for you? When I shall entreat for thee and for thy servants and for thy people to destroy the frogs from thee and thy houses, that they remain in the river only. Verse 10. And he said, and Moses said, tomorrow. And he said, be it according to thy word, that thou may knowest that there is none like to the Lord our God. And only God can do these things and make these things happen. Verse 11. And remember, Moses and Aaron appeared before Pharaoh in the day. And so, hey, them frogs weren't going to disappear into that next day, that next morning. So all of that day, frogs. All of that night, frogs, which that lets you know that the Egyptians were probably restless. How are you going to get some sleep? Oh, I know, because the children of Israel, they were restless. They didn't get any sleep. They was worried. So guess what, Pharaoh in Egypt? Right back on your head. You reap what you sow. Told you, boy, don't be deceived. God is not mocked. So they had to spend that whole day, whole night with nothing but frogs, man. I know them Egyptians didn't get an ounce of sleep. I know I wouldn't know, with frogs all over the place. Man, that's a mess right there. Verse 11. And the frogs shall depart from thee, and from thy houses, and from thy servants, and from thy people, and shall remain in the river only. 12. And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh. And Moses cried unto the Lord because of the frogs which he had brought against Pharaoh. So Moses, he begged God to remove the frogs. And guess what? 13. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses. And the frogs died out of the houses, out of the villages, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together upon heaps, in the land stank. So wherever everybody was at, so pretty much because they covered the land of Egypt, so in every region, every area, every house, there was heaps of frogs. And so, you know, those corpses after a while began to rot and smell. And this smell is mixing with the smell of the rotting fish. So, man, you can only imagine the smell. So I see what the Lord is doing. He's making Pharaoh and the Egyptians uncomfortable. But do you know why? Because they made the children of Israel uncomfortable with all of those burdens and all them demands that they put on them. So God is simply returning the favor right on their own head. That's what I love about this God. So now we're going to go into the next plague, right? Verse 16. And the Lord said unto Moses, wait, hold on, I ain't done yet. I done skipped. Verse 14. Whoa, I almost skipped big time. And let me read that again. And they gathered them upon heaps in the land stank. 15. But when Pharaoh saw that there was respite, so when Pharaoh looked and he seen that, you know, the frogs was gone and things were starting to look a little bit better. In other words, when he got comfortable, what did it say? He hardened his heart and hearkened not unto them as the Lord had said. And that's what always happened with men. You know, men doing bad, you know, as long as men are doing bad and are under the judgment of God and, you know, different things are happening, you know, they're humble, they're lowly, they're meek, they're compliant. But as soon as they get comfortable, as soon as things start looking up, that's when men tend to begin to rebel. They begin to act out. They begin regressing because, coast clear. So I'm going to just get back to doing what I'm doing. Don't do that, brothers and sisters. Don't do that. Continue to remain humble, but not Pharaoh. He hardened his heart, but we know it's because the Lord did it. So now we're going to move on to the next plague. And it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch out thy rod and smite the dust of the land. And the dust of the land is immeasurable. Okay. But nevertheless, he said, smite the dust of the land that it may become lice. Oh God. If you don't know nothing about lice, I'm going to get ready to tell you. That it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. The thing about lice is they love hair. Okay, that's one thing you need to know about lice. They love hair and they love biting. Okay, so anything that's got hair, it's going to latch onto it and it's going to begin to eat. So essentially, these lice going to start to eat you alive. Okay, not literally, but they bite the hell out of you. Okay, so you going to, if a lice was to get on your arm, you remove them lice off, okay, you will see bumps all over your skin, man. Go look at lice videos too. You know, you can see that them lice, man, it ain't no joke, man. That's not something you want to play with. But 17, and they did so. For Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice. Oh, Lord have mercy. Not just lice, but it became lice in man and in beasts. All the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. So you know what the men were doing? Men and women, they were itching all over. Because that's what lice do. Lice eat you alive. And that lets you know, boy, the cattle probably was, you know, rolling on the ground and everything, because them lice, man, just eat you. You be itching all over the place. I've seen lice videos, guys. That stuff, man, is no joke, man. It just makes you real itchy. It's freaking me out, man, just talking about it. Let me stop talking about it, man, so I can just not get freaked out. 18. It says, and the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth life. So they're ignorant. They're doing this. All they're doing is dealing self-inflicted wounds to themselves by copying. But, oh, wait, hold on. It says the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not. So there were lice upon man and beast. So this was something that they couldn't do. And this should let them know right here that this is God, because you can't do this. Only a God can do this. Verse 19. Then the magician said unto Pharaoh, this is the finger of God, because we can't do this. Only God can do that. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. Why? Because the Lord wanted to get his hands on Egypt for all of the pain, the suffering, the crying, the tears that they put Israel through, and the murdering of Israel, specifically the sons. The Lord wanted to repay them for all of those things. That's why he's doing this. He continues to harden Pharaoh's heart. Verse 20, and it says, and the Lord said unto Moses, so he's going to get ready to release another plague. Rise up early in the morning and stand before Pharaoh. Lo, he cometh forth to the water. And say unto him, thus saith the Lord, let my people go, that they may serve me. Else, if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send swarms of flies upon thee, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thy houses. And the houses of the Egyptians shall be full of swarms of flies, and also the ground whereon they are. Now, I don't know about y'all. Has a fly ever gotten inside y'all house? And that thing just is pestering the heck out of you. It's just flying. And you know how flies do. They don't just fly around pestering you. They like to fly close to you. Then they land. Psh, you know, you trying to hit it. Bam. Then it fly away. You swat. And it just, flies are just pests. They're annoying. So imagine swarms of them. We've seen swarms of gnats before. You know how hard it is to get away from swarms of gnats. They just surround you, flying all in your eyes, flying in your clothes. So, again, the Lord is doing this. Why? To make Egypt uncomfortable. Why? Because they made the children of Israel uncomfortable. Because that's what these Pharaoh and the Egyptians were like to the children of Israel. Y'all was like that lice. Y'all was like an itch they couldn't get rid of. Y'all was like flies that buzzed around them and annoyed them. So that's why the Lord is returning the favor upon these Egyptians. Okay. Verse 22. He says, and I will sever in that day. I will sever in that day the land of Goshen, in which my people dwell. Because remember, that's where Joseph had the children of Israel to dwell in the land of Goshen. It says, in which my people dwell, that no swarms of flies shall be there, to the end that thou mayest know that I am the Lord in the midst of the earth. So the Lord is saying, listen, Pharaoh, I'm getting ready to make a difference between my people and your people, and to let you know that the children of Israel belongs to me. And brothers and sisters, we need to pay attention to all of these things, because all of these things are going to happen again. History is going to repeat itself, except this time on a grander scale in all nations. And it says 23, and I will put a division between my people and thy people tomorrow. And thy people tomorrow shall this sign be. 24. And the Lord did so. And there came a what? Grievous swarm of flies, because that's what the Egyptians were to Israel. They were grievous. They were like grievous flies to the children of Israel. So therefore, there came a grievous swarm of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into his servants' houses, and into all the land of Egypt. The land was corrupted by the reason of the swarm of flies, and the lice, and the frogs, and the rivers of waters turned to blood. See, because all of these things leave behind residue. That stuff destroys your land. It destroys the trees. It destroys the ground. That stuff, because, you know, those things leave around residue. And remember, them flies and stuff, they spit and poop. So the land of Egypt is a mess right now. Verse 25, and Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron. Here come Pharaoh again and said, go ye, sacrifice to the Lord your God in the land. And I really believe Pharaoh meant this. He really wanted to let Israel go, but he couldn't. Why? Because the Lord hardened his heart. Pharaoh, you and the Egyptians are not going to get off easy. Why? Because of the things you did to my people. You must pay. You have to pay. The greatest crime is the murder y'all have committed by killing the sons of Israel. You got to pay for it. So he not letting these Egyptians off easy. So he says, go ye and sacrifice to your God in the land. 26. And Moses said, it is not meet to do so. Because remember, you know, they sacrifice cattle and all that kind of stuff. It says, for we shall sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians to the Lord our God. Yeah, because they ain't finna sit up there and because in other words, we're not finna sit up here and sacrifice your idols, which are the cattle, because it's a defilement, essentially. Okay. But where was I, guys? Because we're gonna go ahead and keep it going. It says, for shall we sacrifice the abomination of the Egyptians to our God? Lord don't want nothing to do with them idols. Okay. It says, lo, shall we sacrifice the abominations of the Egyptians before their eyes, and they not stone us? Because remember, them cattle was like, they were gods in the eyes of these Egyptians. That's why you kind of look on the walls in Egypt, in the tombs and stuff, you'll see like the cattle and stuff. They got all of this gold on them, because you remember they put earrings in the cattle. They dressed the cattle down because they seen these cattle as gods. And so Moses like, hey, if we do that in the eyes of the people gonna stone us. 27. They said, we will go 3 days journey into the wilderness and sacrifice to the Lord our God as he shall command us. 28. And Pharaoh said, I will let you go, that ye may sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness. Only ye shall not go very far away. Entreat for me. So he begging that Pharaoh, that Moses and Aaron take away these flies, because they being torn apart, man. 29. And Moses said, behold, I go out from thee, and I will entreat the Lord that the swarm of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people tomorrow. See, that's the key, tomorrow. As he did these things, he came in the day to do these miracles and the signs. So they had to go through the rest of the day with them flies, the rest of the night with them flies, and then the next day, meaning that morning, that's when the flies would disappear. Okay? But he says, I will entreat the Lord that the swarms of flies may depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people tomorrow. But let not Pharaoh deal deceitfully anymore in not letting the people go to sacrifice to the Lord. And Pharaoh wanted to, but he couldn't, because the Lord wanted to get his hands on Pharaoh and the Egyptians for the things that they did to Israel. 30. And Moses went out from Pharaoh and entreated to the Lord. So Moses begged God to, take away them flies. 31. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses. And he removed the swarms of flies from Pharaoh and from his servants and from his people. And there remained not one. 32. And Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also, neither would he let the people go, because he probably seen, oh, okay, no more flies, all right. He got back comfortable, hardened his heart. And that's typical of men. That's what men do when they get comfortable. They get in a state of complacency, they harden their hearts, and they become prideful. That's how it always happens. But now, we're going to move on to our last chapter, brothers and sisters, and that is Exodus chapter 9. Okay? And I'm going to read verse 1. Okay, we're going to deal with the next plague, and it says, Then the Lord said unto Moses, Go unto Pharaoh, and tell him, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. For if thou refuse to let them go, and will hold them still, which he will, 3, Behold, behold, the hand of the Lord is upon thy cattle, which is in the field, which they also worshipped, upon the horses, upon the asses, upon the camels, upon the oxen, and upon the sheep. There shall be a very grievous murrain. So now we see that the Lord is starting to touch Egypt's economics. So their wealth, he's starting to touch it now. So he says, there shall be a very great murrain. Okay. And it says, and the Lord shall sever between the cattle of Israel and the cattle of Egypt, that there shall not die nothing die of all that is the children of Israel. And the Lord appointed a set time, saying, Tomorrow shall the Lord do this thing in the land. And the Lord did that thing on the morrow, and all the cattle of Egypt died. But of the cattle of the children of Israel died not one. And Pharaoh sent, and behold, there was not one of the cattle of the Israelites dead. And the heart of Pharaoh was hard, and he did not let the people go. So the Lord, he sent them diseases on, the cattle, the horses, the asses, the camel, the oxen, the sheep, on all of the Egyptians, and they all died. Okay, so the Egyptians, their economics right now is destroyed, but yet Pharaoh still hardening his heart while Egypt is being destroyed. Verse 8. We're going to look at the next plague. Okay, and it says, and the Lord said unto Moses and unto Aaron, Take you handfuls of ashes from the furnace. Okay. It says, and let Moses sprinkle it toward the heaven in the sight of Pharaoh. And it shall become small dust in all the land of Egypt, and shall be a boil breaking forth with blands upon man. And I'm sure blands is probably talking about pus. Boils with pus upon man and upon beasts. throughout all the land of Egypt. Oh man. And they took ashes of the furnace and stood before Pharaoh and sprinkled it up toward heaven. And it became a boil breaking forth with blains upon man and upon beasts. And let's see whether or not these boils was painful. 11. And the magicians could not stand before Moses because of the boils, for the boil was upon the magicians and upon all the Egyptians. And the Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, and he hearkened not unto them. And as the Lord had spoken, so they was, because you know them boils, they burn and they burn and they itch, and when you itch them, it burns again. So from head to toe, it covered in boils, getting toe up, man. So he essentially diseased the actual Egyptians. So they get messed up, man. Now we're going to look at the next plague. It says 13. And the Lord said unto Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and stand before Pharaoh, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God of the Hebrews, Let my people go, that they may serve me. Not serve Moses, not serve Aaron, but that they may serve me, the Lord God of Israel. 14. For I will at this time send all my plagues upon thine heart, and upon thy servants, and upon thy people, that thou mayest know that there is none like me in all the earth. When I get done with you, Pharaoh, and you Egyptians, y'all gonna know it's only one true and living God. For now I will stretch out mine hand, that I might smite thee and thy people with pestilence, that thou may be cut off from the earth. So God talking about killing people now. He's mad. 16. And in very deed, for this cause I have raised thee up. Okay, here we go, y'all. So as far as enemies in your life and these enemies of Israel right here, why does he raise up these enemies? Okay. For this cause have I raised thee up, that for to shew in thee my power, that my name may be declared throughout all the earth. That's why the Lord raises up your enemies. So that way the glory and the praise and the majesty of God may go forth through the defeat of your enemies. That's why he allows your enemies in your life. And in this case, for Israel, Pharaoh. So that way, see, this is why with your enemies, he gives them all power. It seems like they got unlimited power. They just can't be taken down by anybody. Why? Anybody. Why? Because when the Lord defeat them, everybody going to know, hey, this man or this woman had absolute power. Nobody could touch them. This had to be of God. So guess what? God glory goes forth. Okay. So that's why the Lord had raised up Egypt, because Egypt was the superpower of this day. Verse 17. It says, As yet exaltest thyself against my people, that thou would not let them go. He said, okay, behold, tomorrow about this time I will cause it to rain a very grievous hail, such hath not been in Egypt since the foundation thereof, even until now. So now this is a plague of hail. And it says 19, Send therefore now, and gather thy cattle, and all that thou hast in the field, for upon every man and beast which shall be found in the field, and shall not be brought home, the hail shall come down upon them, and they shall die. So the Lord even giving the Egyptians a chance. Hey, get every man, beast, everything out of the field, because if it's in the field, it's going to die. Okay, so he's giving them a chance. And if they believe, they're going to save their own lives. But if they don't believe, they're going to be destroyed. 20. Now look at this. It says, He that feared the word of the Lord among the servants of Pharaoh. So those that knew he was the true and living God among the servants of Pharaoh made his servants and his cattle flee into the houses. 21. And he that regarded not the word of the Lord left his servants and his cattle in the field. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch forth thine hand toward heaven, that there may be hail in all the land of Egypt. So really this is Aaron stretching forth his hand. Okay. That there may be hand upon all the land of Egypt, upon man, upon beast, upon every herb of the field. So God continued to destroy their economy throughout all the land of Egypt. 23. And Moses stretched forth his rod towards heaven, but we know it's actually Aaron. And the Lord sent thunder and hail, and fire ran along the ground. So the Lord sending down hail, fire. And the Lord rained hail upon the land of Egypt. So the Lord is destroying their land. So whatever lands that was considered good land, it's destroyed by this hail, fire. 24. So there was hail and fire mingled with it. There was hail and fire mingled with the hail, very grievous, such as there was none like it in all the land of Egypt since it became a nation. And the hail smote throughout all the land of Egypt, all that was in the field, both man and beast. So there was a lot of men and a lot of animals that died. And it says, and the hail smote every herb of the field and break every tree of the field. And I'm sure them herbs of the field, they had Israel planting them herbs. All them trees, they had Israel plant them trees. So God destroying it all. And on top of this, this is destroying their the Egyptian economy as well as their food sources. 26. Only in the land of Goshen, where the children of Israel were, was there no hail. 27. Because see, Israel has a mark on them. That's why none of that stuff touched them. 27. Pharaoh sent and called for Moses and Aaron and said unto them, I have sinned this time. He like, I done sinned this time. The Lord is righteous, and I and my people are wicked. Entreat the Lord, for it is enough, that there be no more mighty thunderings in hell. And I will let you go, and you shall stay no longer. But nope, the Lord gonna continue to harden that heart. You got to pay for the stuff you did to Israel. Come on, y'all. 4 centuries of hell for Israel. Them Egyptians got to pay. They went through 4 centuries of hell under these Egyptians. They not getting off this easy. Okay. 29. And Moses said unto him, as soon as I am going out of the city, I will spread abroad my hands unto the Lord, and the thunder shall cease. Neither shall there be any more hail, that thou mayest know that the earth is the Lord's. And it is, brothers and sisters. And never forget it. No man, no woman, they have no power. Everybody is controlled by the Most High. But verse 30, it says, but as for thee and thy servants, I know that ye will not fear the Lord God. So Moses said, I already know y'all ain't going to fear God. Y'all going to get comfortable and you're going to harden your heart. Of course, we know it was the Lord that did it. 31, and the flax and the barley was smitten, for the barley was in the ear and the flax was bold. And so the Lord is destroying their economy and their food source. Excuse me, y'all. 32. But the wheat and the rye were not smitten, for they were not grown up. 33. And Moses went out of the city from Pharaoh and spread abroad his hands unto the Lord. And the thunders and hail ceased, and the rain was not poured upon the earth. And when Pharaoh saw that the rain and the hail and the thunders were ceased, he sinned yet more and hardened his heart, he and his servants. And the heart of Pharaoh was hardened. Neither would he let the children of Israel go, as the Lord had spoken by Moses. So as soon as they got comfortable again, they hardened their heart. But that is it, brothers and sisters, for this lesson. I really enjoyed that lesson. I got a lot out of it. Hope you guys got a lot out of it as well. And I will see you guys again on the next Sabbath day. Shalom.